We have many more videos coming soon. Please like, comment, and make sure you subscribe.
Betty, are you there? Betty?
Occam's razor is a principle that guides us to choose the simplest explanation with the fewest assumptions when faced with competing theories. But it's often misunderstood, and misusing it can lead to flawed conclusions. People often use Occam's razor naturally, as it aligns with common sense in many situations. On one specific day, we all used it simultaneously. At 8:46 a.m., based off of the information we had, the explanation requiring the fewest number of assumptions was that a tragic accident had just occurred. However, we would soon find out that Occam's razor was wrong.
I just heard a loud boom. You did? Was it a plane?
Now, we've gotten a look at least 3 sides of tower number 1, and that is the only building
it's exploding right now, Tommy. We're seeing another
Apparently
plane.
that was another plane. We have a witness who we just spoke to a moment ago. We're hearing from Carl Tendler, who was at the Village Apartments in Washington Square. We're trying to bring him on the air.
All right,
that was a
Carl?
second plane that just blew?
Building number 1.
It's been another one, Carl.
Yes, he hit in building number 1.
The other building.
Yes, he flew right into it.
By 9:03 a.m., only 17 minutes after the first plane hit, we received new information and revised our calculus. Occam's razor was now presenting a different solution. We all knew what this meant. Before our eyes, the tragic accident instantly transformed into something far more insidious.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
There's a second plane that just hit the World Trade Center.
Stop all departures out of the center, please.
So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Oh my God, another plane has just hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God, it's right in the middle of the building.
Mom, another plane just crashed into the other World Trade Center. Another plane hit a jumbo jet. I'm so scared. I'm leaving. No, don't make it. You can't. Bye. I love you.
On this edition for Saturday, January 29th, a weekend winter storm brings blizzard conditions to the Northeast, packing near hurricane-force winds and heavy snow, creating blinding blizzard conditions in some areas. Officials warn drivers to stay off the road, where all non-emergency travel is banned until further notice.
He's right fucking there.
No, police are square line. What is your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. There's a man passed out in the snow. There's a guy unresponsive in the snow. He got out of the car and it's been a couple of hours. I don't know if he's breathing. There are two women trying to do his body heat and they're hysterical. Well, they had been out.
They've been out drinking?
Yes, out, but I'm talking hours ago, maybe, and I don't know how long he's been in the snow.
Okay, is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe hit his head out?
Yes, possibly. There seems to be bleeding in the face. I guess he's gone.
We're on the way.
It's me. It's me. You're right. Stay out of sight. Stay out of sight. The police are on the way. Yeah, we're not ours. Listen. I'll send him Brian's number now.
Hi, Sergeant Lank with the Canton Police. How are you? Good. So, I'm just responding to a scene now. We have a Boston police officer that was just found in the snow here, and does have some trauma to his head. Not sure if he's been in a fight.
We know that you called at 6:07, 6:08, or thereabouts, and about 6:23. 2 to Nicole, 1 to Brian, correct?
Correct.
And you'll agree with me that notwithstanding those phone calls, by the way, did you leave voicemails?
No.
When did you hang up? Before it went to voicemail, or was it into voicemail before you hung up?
So it was a bit of a hysterical scene that morning, and I was in a state of shock, and I was just calling my sister and my brother-in-law. They did not answer the phone. I cannot tell you when I hung up, because it was a hysterical scene. I was in a state of shock. Everyone was running around, and what seems to be forgotten is that my friend was lying there on the ground.
What insights can Occam's razor provide about Jen McCabe's testimony regarding that morning? What's the simplest explanation for her phone activity? 2 consecutive calls to her sister inside the home that were answered. Why even make the calls at all when she could have walked right in the unlocked front door to wake Brian, the first responder himself?
Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets carried.
And gotten blankets to help warm John. Then, only 18 seconds after hanging up with her sister, took a screenshot of Brian's contact information, which, by the way, she coincidentally deleted later that morning 2 minutes after speaking to Michael Proctor. Brian and Nicole were not expecting John's body to be discovered at this particular time. They would have needed a stealth warning that authorities were on the way. But if Jen confessed that they spoke, then they would have to explain why the home didn't light up with activity until much later, and why Brian did nothing to help. Digital forensic phone records are vastly more reliable than human testimony due to their objectivity, accuracy, consistency, and resistance to manipulation. Either you can choose to invoke a series of improbable anomalies to justify Jennifer's extraordinary story, or conclude, simply, that she's lying.
That is what it is. That is the truth.
A lot of coincidences.
A lot of coincidences indeed. So many details to keep straight. It must be exhausting being Jen McCabe.
Idea, anybody have a leaf blower? And I did.
As the sky was lightening, Canton PD convened back to the crime scene to begin the first search. Notice there's only a few inches of snow on the ground. We see here that the weather conditions were initially favorable, though they began to deteriorate as the storm intensified throughout the day. 2 vehicles parked in the driveway appear to have not moved in a few hours, including Brian Albert's Ford Edge, which coincidentally itself is not blocked in, and by definition is the last vehicle to have moved into place. The third is the McCabe's 2020 Yukon XL, which Matt McCabe had just arrived in only minutes ago. The rest of the family, and Brian Higgins will be here shortly, after the police leave. Julie Albert will arrive soon to leave donuts and coffee inside of a car for Brian Jr. An obvious excuse manufactured as the reason she came to the home, to deny knowledge that John was dead at 4:55 a.m., as she told police. We see Canton Officer Michael Lank exit his 2015 Toyota Tacoma pickup and walk towards the crime scene. He is a childhood friend of the Alberts and has helped them out before.
We grabbed some crime scene tape. I wrapped it around probably the flagpole, tree, and cruiser. It was hard to keep up just because the wind was blowing at such a good rate.
The top wind speed during the morning search was 28 miles per hour. Considered a strong breeze by the National Weather Service. This video was captured during the search, and the conditions were neither too windy nor too snowy to hang yellow tape, which is designed to withstand various types of extreme weather, especially high wind and moisture. With the addition of one object, the scene could have been easily secured. But Brian didn't want any attention. Lucky's plow passes by once again, providing us with an excellent perspective to assess the height of his towering truck.
And it's up high. The seat is raised.
Despite plenty of daylight, minimal snow accumulation, and only a strong breeze, the officers located exactly 0 pieces of shattered taillight glass. Canton PD's work is complete. Together, they drive back to the police station with 6 solo cups containing blood and the broken cocktail glass, packed into 2 unsealed brown paper shopping bags. Leaving the crime scene unsecured, free for anyone to contaminate it, like nothing ever happened. Meanwhile, all the main players are returning to the home for an emergency family meeting. The Canton police are relieved of their duties as the Massachusetts State Police assume jurisdiction over the case. Inside the Alberts' kitchen, Jen tells them everything that's transpired so far, then shares an idea.
When she first called me, and we were driving in the car, and we were at John's house, it was like, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? Is he dead? I have a cracked taillight. There was a crack in it.
This is good. No, it's better than good. It's perfect. But there has to be a direct physical link to Karen for it to be cut and dry. Or else they may suspect us. We need to find the SUV and get it back to the Sallyport before the state police search. I'll call him back now. you could choose to believe it was all just a series of coincidences. That the second search just happened to be delayed until Proctor, Tully and team returned Karen's vehicle to the Canton police sally port, and minutes later somehow managed to find taillight fragments buried under more than 20 inches of snow in the dark, even after the area had already been searched with very little accumulation in broad daylight. But once you find out that Michael Proctor and the Commonwealth lied about the timeline of those events in official police reports and court documents, you are completely disconnected from logic and in outright defiance of Occam's razor. After all, a string of coincidences that all serve a single objective is a near statistical impossibility, especially when it can be far more easily explained by deliberate intent. It's blatantly obvious to anyone with even a modicum of critical thinking that Michael Proctor lied about the time he arrived in Dighton to create the illusion that he and Tully couldn't possibly have been involved in planting evidence, and every officer in that sally port knew it. With one unable to resist the urge to insert himself by spotting a red shard as he drove by, adding yet another utterly inconceivable coincidence to the fable. As bad as this is, it gets worse. On September 2nd, 2023, we learn that the Commonwealth was forced to quietly change their timeline, only after their deception was definitively proven by Dighton police records. Initially, they attributed the discrepancy to a daylight savings time change. However, when that excuse was debunked, they could only claim it, a scrivener's error. As the sole law enforcement officer to have seen the condition of Karen Reed's taillight before the SUV came under the custody of Michael Proctor and the Massachusetts State Police, Dighton Officer Sergeant Nick Barrows must have fully understood the gravity of his testimony. He chose his words carefully and deliberately.
I saw that there was some damage to the right rear taillight. To my best ability and recollection, that taillight was not completely damaged. It was cracked, and a piece was missing, but not completely damaged.
Why would he add that it was not completely damaged? Why mention the condition it was not in? The only plausible explanation is that he saw this photograph that had been publicly available, taken hours after witnessing Michael Proctor take custody of Karen's vehicle, and immediately recognized it had been tampered with. Officer Barrows knows his brothers in law enforcement are perpetrating a hoax, and he will not play along. Jen McCabe herself initially told police it had a crack in it.
You actually said, I saw a crack in it, correct?
That's what he said, I said. I'm telling you, I said the taillight was cracked.
This is another example of him screwing up your words.
And now we have the only officer to testify with no skin in the game telling us it was cracked. How many Commonwealth coincidences are you willing to accept? At what point does your sense of plausibility reach its breaking point? How long will this charade be allowed to go on?
I didn't need time to make up a story because I have the truth of why we went.
And the truth, according to you, is you pulled up at Michael Lang's house. The first responding officer and friends of the Albans had a meeting with him the next day that was never reported to anybody for any purpose. You just met with his wife out in the car while the car was running for 45 minutes to an hour. That's your story.
It's not a story, it's the truth. Carrie dropped her daughter off. The wife came out. Carrie is a talker. They started talking. A tragedy had happened the day before.
It is interesting, would you not agree, that the day before you had this off-the-books meeting at Michael Lang's house, Nicole Albert says, we'll get more info tomorrow, meaning the very day you show up at Lang's house.
Again, I never spoke with Mike Lank at his house. It was not an off-the-books meeting. It was Kerry dropping her daughter at one of her good friends' house, whose husband happens to be a Canton cop.
Jen is confronted with phone location data that places her at Officer Lank's home for approximately 1 hour, the day after John was killed. It also indicates that she stopped at 34 Fairview just minutes before, presumably to pick up Nicole.
We didn't stop by. Maybe Kerry slowed down, but we did not stop by 34.
The information the sisters were after was so sensitive that they refused to risk discussing it over text and insisted on meeting with Michael Lank in person. For the third-party suspects and Norfolk officials, communication would prove to be an ongoing challenge, especially once they became aware of the federal investigation about 1 year later. Inevitably, every criminal organization must grapple with this and know the safest way to communicate is face-to-face. However, it becomes a serious issue when you're caught meeting with individuals you have no legitimate reason to be associated with, like a witness visiting the home of an investigator.
Did you have any conversation before your testimony today with anybody about you going to Michael Lank's house on January 30th? Anybody?
Alan Jackson already knows. The answer is
yes.
Tell me about that. Who was it and when?
And that's because the secret meeting between Jen McCabe, Nicole Albert, and Michael Lank was never known until a report was produced for the first trial. Jen will describe the circumstances in which she recently became aware.
It was a couple of weeks ago at the DA's office.
At this early stage, they were already acting as seasoned conspirators. To fully grasp this, you must first understand exactly how tense things were for the first 5 days, until Karen was arraigned on February 2nd. They were trapped in an agonizing limbo, unsure if their involvement would be exposed. At any moment, the situation could unravel disastrously. Information was scarce, yet critically valuable. This is why it was crucial for Jen, husband Matt, Brian, and Nicole Albert to stay coordinated through their group chat, and why Matt McCabe acted as a lookout, texting them a message that read, "Troopers back out front, but in front of Asian house," and trying to get a picture for Brian. It also explains why Jen gleefully reported back to them that Kerry was sticking to the script during her police interview, telling them everything. And Proctor is already sending his friends hate-filled text messages targeting Karen and boasting about the untouchable status of Boston cops. Julie Albert was so relieved at Karen's arrest that she vocalized her desire to reward Michael Proctor with a gift, while Chris Albert was being instructed to tell the media that the guy never came into the house and to ask questions. They each had their role, and until Karen was placed in handcuffs, they were teetering on the knife's edge. Every move carried the weight of potential disaster, where even the smallest misstep could trigger catastrophic consequences. Jen goes on to describe her meeting at the DA's office, where she found out she's been caught at Lank's home.
Mr. Lally, Miss McLaughlin, Steve Nelson, Trooper Brian Tully, I believe, and another woman, I can't remember her name, unfortunately. My daughter Allie came with me also. It was a casual meeting to explain this process.
What did Mr. Lally show you?
He showed me nothing. Mr. Lally was not there when this conversation happened. Brian Tully told me.
Trooper Tully. Exactly did he tell you?
The reason you went to Lank's. Figure it out.
He said, "Did you go to Michael Lank's on January 30th? And at first I said, "No, I've never been to his house." And then I thought about it and I said, "Oh my gosh, yes, I did go there." And that was the extent of the conversation.
Trooper Tully had you come down for an interview. He confronted you with a fact that had never been disclosed before, to wit, you showed up at Michael Lank's house, and when you said, hang on, I think your words were, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I think I did go there." And he didn't ask a follow-up question.
What does Jen do when she's cornered, being asked unexpected questions she never prepared answers for? She knows her story makes no sense. Inside the conference room, the DA's attorneys pretend everything's above board and legitimate. But they're keeping a second set of books, to be discussed with only certain individuals, more discreetly. Even a master manipulator like Jen can't fabricate an entire honest conversation about the report off the top of her head. And she certainly can't reveal what Tully really said to her. So she reverses it and blames Jackson.
He was there. You're spinning all of this.
Ma'am, I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't spin. There's a judge here to make sure that I don't spin. I'm asking you a question. It's very direct.
I do not believe he asked me a follow-up question.
So that was the end of that conversation about Michael, correct?
Correct.
February 7th, 2022. Boston police officer John O'Keefe was laid to rest at Blue Hill Cemetery, only about a 10-minute drive from Canton. And although Brian Albert, his brother Kevin, and Brian Higgins traveled to other states to attend services for fallen officers, they apparently didn't find it worthwhile to attend John's. Surprising, given that they claimed to like him, were among the last people to see him, and at least according to them, were shocked to discover that he was found dead on their lawn. Or, a simpler explanation may be that John's funeral is the last place on earth they wanted to be. An event surrounded by his loved ones, alongside hundreds of other cops and detectives, where you might be put on the spot to answer questions before you have your story straight. If either Brian Albert or Higgins had even the smallest scratch on their face or hands, it would have been noticed. A risk not worth taking, especially when things seemed to be unfolding in their favor. Karen had been arrested, Proctor was leading the investigation, and the DA was building its case. They could relax now and get back to normal life. Everything was in its right place.
Hold on to the memories, they will hold on to you. But yesterday's gone, we gotta keep moving on. I'll always remember you and what makes you beautiful, class of 2022.
High-profile attorney Alan Jackson made his first appearance Thursday, presenting new evidence indicating O'Keefe was severely beaten. Then dropped a bombshell, claiming to have uncovered forensic phone data showing Jennifer McCabe Googled how long to die in cold hours before O'Keefe was reported missing. Karen Reed's attorneys said today in court that they have proof of a cover-up by police officials and the DA's office.
The district attorney is well aware of his obligations to resolve any conflict of interest, spokesman David Traub wrote.
Aidan Kearney set off in 3 and 2. Bomb 1.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
Newly unsealed letters released today confirming the existence of an ongoing federal investigation into Norfolk DA Michael Morrissey and the Massachusetts State Police.
The district attorney is the target, he says, of that ongoing investigation.
And they just sit up there and they lie with the straight face.
Spokesman David Traub and ADA Lynn Beeland have now both resigned from the DA's office.
Proctor will have a hearing on January 15th on misconduct charges.
Matthew Farwell was taken into custody today in an FBI raid for the murder of Sandra
investigated
Birchmore.
under the same Massachusetts State Police unit as the Karen Reed case.
All our blood lying on the floor. Sense the crowd expecting something more. Opened up proudly on display. What we try so hard to hide away. Blinding light illuminates the scene. Try to fill the spaces in
John never went in the house. It wasn't a story. It was the truth.
Just like she said, I hit him.
Correct.
That's what the report says, yes.
Do you think Officer Lane got it wrong?
Perhaps, yes.
Your testimony is that they got it wrong.
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
I'm sure it happens to everyone. You forget something and then you're like, oh my God, that's what it was. Oh my gosh, yes, I did go there.
Your life would be much easier if Karen Reed was just dead.
I guess I thought I went home.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
I believe I went home.
Okay.
I was completing my drive out my house.
I don't remember making any of those calls, so my assumption is I put my phone in my back pocket.
So the fact is, you were speaking to Brian Albert in the middle of the night, approximately 3 hours before Mr. O'Keefe's body was found in his yard. Did I create I hit him, or did you?
Did you see either of those vehicles arrive in front of Fairview?
Yes.
You saw them pull up?
No, actually,
I always tell the truth.
but I do not recall deleting any phone calls. I believe
Well, it's
I
kind of
used
like
the
a
word
butt dial.
As a butt dial.
Who's her dad?
I don't know.